All right, question off the Facebook page. This is a really good one. It's one I could talk about for an hour or two at least. I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. The question is, do I train strength and speed in the same day, or should I train speed and strength on separate days? And this, of course, being for an athlete looking to increase their explosive power. Specifically, the question was asked in the form of vertical jump, but it could have an application for any like athletic outlet. You know, we could say the same for speed or acceleration or just general explosiveness on the field of play. Okay, so if I'm doing training to be explosive, which training step is better? The first thing we should talk about is training frequency. Okay, if I'm putting speed and strength into the same day, same training session, I'm going to probably have to train less frequently than if I was to spread it out over a period of days. When I take speed and strength and train them on separate days, each day is a little less intense overall. Of course, somewhat depending on exactly how hard I went, but generally speaking, if I separate speed and strength, I can train more days a week. Okay, so that's our first variable. Let's kind of look at weightlifting, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, as just an example of just the range that you can develop successful athletes with. So in Olympic lifting, generally lifters will train and lift very often. An extreme being the Bulgarian system, which yielded just a bunch of gold medals, world records, just an incredible display of human performance through lifting multiple times a day to a training max, and just an incredible amount of volume of lifting throughout the week, over a dozen sessions a week. On the other side, you have powerlifting, stuff such as the West Side system, which is a very low frequency model where you're only like squatting heavy once a week or benching heavy once a week. You might kind of say the maybe the speed strength equivalent of that would be maybe jumping really hard twice a week, and just kind of resting on the other days or working on some other things. Okay, so but that system has yielded just a lot of really good lifters too, world champions, world record holders, just incredible success. Okay, so you have incredible success from both levels of frequency. So what do you make of that? Okay, like how do you discern the difference? My explanation would be, the Olympic lifts are a little more complex technique wise, and they're also a little faster, more explosive, and so therefore I would say that more complex skills and more skills requiring more explosiveness is something that we would want to train a little bit more often. If you look at the training regimens of like elite throwers too, there is a certain number of throws that these throwers need to hit per year. I think the number is something like 10,000. I'm not a throws coach, but I believe elite discus thrower needs to throw have 10,000 discus throws a year. You're not going to get that throwing twice a week. Okay, you have to train more often to make that happen. So stuff of higher skill, you got to train more frequently. More raw, just raw strength, you're going to train a little less, comparatively speaking. Okay, so most athletic skills are something that jumping, I would say, is a little bit more raw of a skill compared to sprinting. Sprinting, you have to be a little more agile, there's shorter ground contacts, more of a asymmetrical movement than jumping. Not that jumping isn't complex, because it is. There's a lot of complexities within jumping, especially like faster jumps, one-legged jumps, more of like fast running, two-legged jumps. But like a standing vertical jump, when it comes down to it, is not terribly complex compared to the faster sprints and running jumps. So it kind of depends, not that many people really even train for a standing vertical jump. That hasn't been the case since the early 1900s, when there was like standing long jump and standing high jump and things like that. But just an FYI, and kind of something to look at. So I'm going to try to take this and relate this to my training experiences, how I've trained athletes in track and field when I was a track and field coach. In my current role as a strength and conditioning coach, I don't make the rules as to when my athletes, or how often my athletes, or the athletes I work with, strength train. They're the days they're in, and I train them on those days. So I'll try to speak more from my experiences as a track and field coach and athlete. So my personal best in high jump came out of the do strength and speed on the same day system. That's how I trained more or less from high school through college. I didn't really ever even consider doing a day specifically for speed and a day specifically for strength. To me, those were always things that you would just combine together. If you're training, you're training. They're all good things for you. So, why not do them on the same day, then recover, and then do it again? And that worked. I mean, it worked well. I'm not going to say it didn't. I had some really good experiences with that. I set my personal best in high jump. I reached a very high level of athleticism for myself, in college. At that point, I will say though, a lot of your training result is a product of your environment, and you can't always, credit exclusively the training program. A lot of times, if you are put in an environment where it's low stress, a lot of competition, you're doing high intensity work related to your event, oftentimes you're going to do well. I mean, whether you space it out one way or the other, most of your results are just going to come from doing the things that are helping you get better a lot, being motivated, and having good training partners. So with that said, once I got out of the kind of college training environment and moved on to my own training, for the next, I would say, year and a half, I was training still how I trained in college, speed and strength in the same day. I really wasn't actually seeing that great of results. Now, a lot of that was revolving around my lack of kind of sport movement outside of my actual training, which is another story for another time. And actually, maybe if I have time here, I'll kind of talk about how that relates into a speed and strength alternating system. But it wasn't working. It was kind of hitting my end with that, and not that it's a bad program. I think some of I needed a little variation in what I did. But when I was about 24 years old, 24, 25, I started to discover how you could set up speed and strength on alternating days. And I used a basic sample template by Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky, where the athletes would lift on Monday and Thursday and jump or be explosive plyometrics on Tuesday, Friday. And I used that with great success. Age 24 and 25. Eventually, I kind of really had it down to what I thought was a great system at age 26. I set a lot of explosive strength personal bests at that point. I set a scissor high jump personal best. I was more powerful than I ever was, although I think the real high-end elastic strength wasn't quite there just from a lack of specific practice and weighing a little bit more. But overall, it was a better training system. If I would have trained like that when I was in college, I think I could have even done a little bit better than I did, as long as it was set up well. So, also, I will say I trained my, when I first started as a coach at age 23 and 24, I trained my athletes with the whole speed and strength on the same day. I kind of switched gears in a little bit at my next coaching job, and I found that the training speed and strength emphasizing on alternating days seemed to work a little bit better. In fact, I got some athletes very explosive in short periods of time using that methodology. Just a quick note too, if you say you're making someone extremely explosive in a short period of time, you also want to make sure those gains are stable. And that's one thing that I think, any athletic training mode that gets you really explosive really fast is good, but you're always going to have stability issues. Are you going to be able to continue making gains over a long period of time? That's another question. So, okay, moving on. I don't want this to take forever. Just a couple quick, observations. So, what's the pros of speed and strength in the same day? I think it's good. I think if you have a real type A, high octane, emotional training group that doesn't control themselves well, like a group that just goes for it, the lower frequency is better. Let's say maybe like a football combine training group, they're just all getting amped, jacked up, taking 3 scoops of pre. You're probably not going to want to train hard 4 times a week. You're going to blow someone up, okay? So in that case, it might be better to train 2 or 3 times a week hard, okay? Because you're really getting after it when you do push. To train 4 times a week, like the speed and then strength and speed and strength on different days, you have to have a little more stoic mindset on the strength days. You got to realize that you're doing them to kind of potentiate those speed days and spread things out. Okay, so you can't really walk in the weight room that day and just want to crush. You have to do it in light of the other thing that you're trying to improve. Okay, I think that training speed and strength in the same day is great for building work capacity, because on the off days you can do conditioning, movement, mobility, core circuits, a bunch of stuff to kind of increase your work capacity and fitness, and maybe lose a little body fat if you need to. So when I was coaching track full time, What I kind of preferred, found that worked well, was starting the year off, the first few months of the year, we would run Monday, Wednesday, Friday speed and strength together, and then the other days we do fitness-based work, some tempo running, maybe some hills or what have you. So that was kind of the scheme, and then we'd switch over to the speed and strength on alternating days. The day in the middle, the Wednesday, was just kind of a recovery fitness day. We play like a game or something. Saturday could be like a nice easy jog in the forest or something. That worked really well. I was a big fan of it, but granted, that was for Division III athletes. I had a lot of good Division III athletes, but Division III kind of intermediate, advanced level athletes nonetheless. So we're not talking elite, but then again, I mean, most people looking for training advice are in the intermediate category. So hopefully that gives you some good kind of insight as to which can work, what the value is in the different types of setups. I'll leave with this too. Intensity is number one. Okay, so whether you go same day or alternating days, I'm assuming if you want to jump higher, your goal is to jump higher. If you want to jump higher, your intensity needs to be devoted to the speed and jumping and plyometric sessions. So you will not get to your highest level unless you're able to devote 100% intensity to those. Okay, you can lift the day before, and the lifting can potentiate it, but you don't want to, be ripping it too much in the weight room on those days. It's hard, but it's controlled. Okay, leave you with that. So whatever you're gonna do, it's got to be intense. And that's it. Hopefully, I'm sure this will generate a few maybe comments, questions, but feel free to leave them in the comment box. I can try to get back to you. But until then, Joel Smith, justflysports.com, and I hope you have a good one.